Hey guys, Niklas here from Your Audio Solutions. Awesome to have you here this week again. This week we have Sara Carter, who is a mixing and mastering engineer. She has worked for BBC and she got to work and record bands and artists like Adele, the Black Keys, Rod Stewart, the Raconteurs, and many other cool bands and artists. Sara now runs her own home studio where she lives in Basingstoke, UK. And she actually, which you will hear in the interview, she started out in the music world later than most of us. She was 34 years old when she decided to go to SAE Institute in London. Later on, she got into the BBC. She decided to take a break to start brewing her own beer and stuff, which is kind of cool. But you will hear all about it in the interview with Sara. And we also spoke about how to run your own home studio, how to use SEO, how to contact clients online, how to find clients online, using Soundbetter, for example, and the benefits and what the problem is with payments and stuff. We also spoke about how Sara went to Mix with the Masters, where Sylvia Massey had a seminar, and how that encouraged her to set up her home studio and that she still had it in her to make music for a living. I think you will love this interview with Sara and find a lot of useful tips and stuff you can apply to your own career, for example, SEO, how to find clients, and all that sort of good stuff. But before we get into the interview with Sara, I want to tell you about a free guide you can download right away. It's called 3 Tested Ways to Increase Your Client Base, and you can find the link to that in the description below. In this guide, you can learn how to contact bands online with my tested email script, how to make more money by charging your clients based on value rather than time, how to get your foot in the door if you're just starting out, and all those sort of good things. The link to that is in the description below. But now over to Sara Carter. Cool. Well, yeah, let's get started. So, Sara, first of all, thank you for coming on.
That's fine. It's fine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. I actually like to get this conversation started because I know you were, I don't want to say older, but you were older than most people when you decided to study audio. I know you were 34, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, actually 2 questions. So what did you do before you decided to go into audio and music?
Before, I had a regular day job and I worked in the motor trade. And I basically worked for a dealership, a car dealership, Volkswagen Audi dealership, and I sold car parts. And that's what I did ever since leaving school. I left school at 16. University wasn't the route that I particularly wanted to go down. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. You know, at 16 years old, you know, you have to decide your future. And I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. I knew I loved music, but, you know, coming from a small town in Yorkshire, you just think, you know, there's just no way that's for me. That's not going to happen. How, you know, I can't work in the music industry, in the music business. No, you've got to live in that London to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But so, you know, music continued to be featured in my life. Mainly because of my mother, because she was a big music fan and a singer in her earlier years. And I played guitar as well, and you know, just went to work. You know, went to the garage every day and worked with cars. And then I did that for 16 years basically, and got as far as I felt as I could, or as far as I wanted to. And all through that period, through my teenage years, through my 20s, I'm wanting to learn to play the guitar better. Somehow that morphed into having a home studio. Right. And that's where it all kind of kicked off, really. And certain things falling into place, certain opportunities through people I'd met and circumstances that allowed me to go to audio school. And whilst I don't think these days that's necessarily the route you have to go down, At that point, it felt to me as though I wanted to do that because of the way I learn and the way I wanted to go about being good at audio. I felt as though I needed to have the grounding. I felt as though I needed that audio engineering knowledge to be able to do the best job I possibly could. And also at that point, I wasn't a great big computer user. Now I am. People would look at me now and think that's hilarious. But back then, I didn't have a computer. So, it was 20 odd years ago. So I don't know. It just didn't feature in my life. I was a books and magazines kind of person. And so, going to school, going to a physical college, which was the SAE in London, was the obvious route for me. So that's what I did.
But did you find having been a mechanic helped you with the logical thing of audio engineering, like all the technical stuff?
Definitely. I think it did. Having a technical mind or a mechanical mind definitely helped me in terms of getting a grip on just routing and signal flow and getting organized as well. I think it did help. And my father was an electrical engineer, so it's kind of in the blood as well. So
yeah. But so what made you finally take the leap? As in, I'm going to do this. I've had enough of cars. What was that process in your mind like?
Yeah, it was a period of several years of getting bored at work. Just I'd reached a level within the company that I didn't particularly want to go any higher. That I was managing the department,
right.
And the next step from that was to go up and to look at managing the dealership, and I didn't really want to do that, and that usually fell more under the eyes of the sales team. The car salesman tended to go that route, and not only that, I was just bored with it. As I said, I'd done it for 16 years, and this studio that I had at home in the back bedroom had slowly taken over my life, really. That's all I thought about, and it's all I did when I came home at night. And it was a case of thinking, wouldn't it be great if I could change my career and do this instead of working in the garage?
Yeah.
And then the circumstances fell into place where we had to move. At that time in my life, I was living in the Midlands, in around about the Leicester area,
right.
And had to. My partner basically got offered a great job, and we decided to move down south. So that's where we are now, which is Basingstoke in Hampshire.
Right.
And it's not too far away from London, really, on the train. It's just sort of an hour. A little bit over an hour, depending where you want to get to in London. And I did that. It was a part-time thing, so I was able to do it on Saturday mornings, and I was there every single Saturday morning for a year and a half.
Oh, so the SE was part-time?
It was. They offered a part-time course there. I don't know if they do now. I think it might be full-time now. It was an audio engineering diploma, so it wasn't a degree.
So you did it 1 year? Or
a year and a half.
Oh, a year and a half, right.
And turned up every Saturday morning, got to work with some amazing equipment. Yeah. They had a Neve desk, I think.
VR?
Yes, it was, yeah. And they had all sorts of, they had the equipment, the pro equipment that I had never previously seen or touched. And so it was a really great way for me to get that grounding that I felt as though I needed. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And once I passed that, then I started to look for a job.
Was that when you got into the BBC? That was your next step, or?
That was the next step. It wasn't straight away. It took me a little while because I did apply for jobs to get into studios. I couldn't really, I was at that age. I was a grown up and I had financial responsibilities. I had bills to pay, so I couldn't really look at internship or work experience unless it was for a very short period of time, like a week or something.
Yeah.
So I really needed a paying job, and the jobs I went for, clearly they were looking for somebody younger. They wanted someone fresh out of university, so that they could mold them to their way of working.
Yeah, sure.
And when it got to the point on the last interview when I was actually lying about my age, I knocked about 10 years off my age and pretended, I prepared myself to what music would I have been listening to had I been 10 years younger, and I thought, this is pointless. This is not right. I'm not comfortable with this at all. And then, it fell into the inbox, really, the opportunity at the BBC. I think I just picked it up off one of the job boards. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, this is it. This is my chance. I've got to go for this. What a fantastic employer. What a fantastic experience. And it was working in London at Broadcasting House, radio rather than television, which appealed to me. And that was it. I went for it in a big way. I studied really hard for it, and boy, I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did.
Yeah. So how did you get the job in the end? I don't know. There was a long process of interviews, or?
Yeah, there was. I mean, initially it sort of starts off with a basic online application and a series of questions.
What were some of the questions? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Right.
It was back in sort of 2003.
Right.
But it was typical interview questions, I guess. Typical fact-finding questions to see whether I fit their job description. And I must have put something down right, because then I got invited for interview.
Right.
And the interview process was the longest and hardest interview process I've ever been through, bearing in mind I'd only ever worked in the motor trade.
Yeah.
And that was really, my experience got, but by the time you've worked in an industry like that for as long as I had, it was just a quick chat, and whether they liked you or not, and if they liked you, you were in. So it was completely different.
Right. Was there any technical tests, or was it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There were a few. There were, I think from memory, there were a couple of kind of your traditional sit down interview sessions. And then there was a personality test where they took a group of you and sat you down around a table and gave you a task, and you had to
what was the task?
I can't remember exactly. It was a challenge. It was as we were given a problem to solve.
Right.
And we had to come up with a solution, how to get from A to B. And we were to kind of just discuss it amongst ourselves, really, whilst there were 4 or 5 of the members of the interview team sat in with us quietly, just observing. And so I guess that was their way of seeing how we would fit in a team. What sort of role would you be if you were put in a team? What sort of role would you take on? So that was one.
Which role did you take on then?
I can't remember. I remember there being some very enthusiastic people around the table trying to do all the talking.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's always happens.
Yeah, and that well, that's not my thing. What I tend to do is I tend to listen to what people have to say and then think about it and come up with a solution, taking on board what other people have said, so
Yeah.
that you get to the best result collaboratively.
And that's the best
really.
way to be an
Yeah.
engineer in a studio,
Yeah.
because they don't want anyone talking all the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's that sort of thinking ahead, isn't it? And being ready, anticipating what the lead engineer or the artist might want, or might need,
Yeah.
to give a better performance, and being there ready, even if it's a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
just being there ready. So that was the sort of personality test, I guess. And then the other final technical test involved listening to some audio examples and describing the faults with them. And then it was a mock-up of a studio. So it was running 3 tape machines, which I'd never worked in my life before. 3 reel-to-reel tape machines from a script, and various reels of tape that had, I think they had either numbers on, or they had the sort of lead-in words written on them or something. And it was just following a script and playing the audio tapes in the correct order,
Right.
without too many gaps or mistakes. Switching between sort of 3 machines,
Okay.
as one was playing,
Right.
out, then you would be looking at the script, and then sort of
Finding what that was. Yeah.
getting the next one ready, and when getting ready to press play when the previous machine stopped.
Yeah.
Things
It's such
like
a
that.
funny test at this day and age, I guess. But back then it was, how it was, I guess.
Yes, it was. I mean, right up until me leaving the BBC, we were still using tape machines. Although whilst I was there, they were definitely on the decline.
Right.
And what the BBC use as a digital audio workstation is Sadie,
Yeah.
which is more of a mastering software solution. We had Pro Tools, but it was only in a couple of isolated areas, and I got to use it occasionally. But Sadie was the thing that I was really quick on when it came to editing speech,
Right.
and music for that matter. But in the studio at Maida Vale, everything was recorded to multi-track tape, the digital tape. We had Sony Dash machines.
Was that like ADAT or?
No. No, it's a big, sort of 48-track kind of tape machine, much the size of an analog machine.
Oh, okay. I never heard about that.
But with digital tapes, but the tapes are maybe an inch,
Right.
something like that. Can't remember. A long time
that's
ago.
Fine.
But yeah, it was the point being, it was still tape. So there was we didn't multi-track it out into Pro Tools.
Right.
We just had a Sadie workstation at the back of the studio that we would just record the stereo mix down to, and make a quick CD out of it, and to be able to send it to the radio station direct for play out either that week, that month, whenever.
Yeah. But so the main things you did at Maida Vale was for radio purposes, right? Or did it also get released as CDs or anything like that?
Some of the work that I was lucky enough to do has been released on CD, but what it mainly was for radio. So it would be for the radio shows on Radio 1 and Radio 2, 6 music, 1 extra,
Right.
and it was session recording, and they were called live sessions. So the band were very much encouraged to set up all in one room and play their songs, which we would record live. Them playing live, and then we would do some overdubs. But it was important that the session retained the live feel, so we didn't do that. We didn't do overdubs.
Right.
In their dozens, it was just a few.
Right.
To, vocal backups,
Sure,
or extra guitar part here and there, that sort of thing.
Cool.
And then we would, flip the desk and go into mixdown and, spend an hour or two or more doing a mixdown.
Right. Also, it was literally in and out.
Yeah.
It goes to radio the same day, or was it next day?
It probably sometimes the same day, but it would certainly get to them by the next day. But it could be, with the way the schedules work with artists, and it could be that the actual session wouldn't get played out for several weeks.
Right.
But
so that you had to work quite fast.
Yes, working very, very quickly and decision making very quickly, not getting bogged down in plug-in choices because we didn't, that wasn't an option when I was working at the BBC.
Yeah.
What we had was the outboard in the studio and the SSL channel strip. So that is really great. That's something I noticed since the switch from working in analog and working in traditional studios is switching over to working in the computer and working in a DAW.
Yeah.
The choices you can make, it's unlimited. If you've got lots of plugins like I do, it's really difficult, it's really easy to just end up going down rabbit trails.
Yeah.
You think, on one hand, I find it creative. I enjoy it. So I'm not too obsessed by that. But there does come a point where you have to kind of draw the line. And I have been toying with the idea of uninstalling a few plugins.
Yeah. My plugin list is super tiny. I don't have much at all.
Yeah. No, that sounds really interesting. Yeah. I just found out this week, actually, a great app. Do you use any of the UAD stuff?
No.
Oh, well, it won't be any use to you then.
Okay.
there's a great little app that you can use in conjunction with your UAD plugins. Because what happens when you install UAD, it installs all of their plugins.
Yeah.
And you may only have purchased a few. Because but you're still left with this huge list of plugin options in your drop-down menu.
Yeah, exactly.
I was able to, this week I heard about a little app that you can install that takes all that away. So you literally just see what you've bought.
Okay, that's good.
And though I knew there was a workaround to that, but it was a bit of a faff and I couldn't
do you know what the app is called, or?
I can't remember, but I did. I've got a Facebook group, group community that's really great, and I posted it there. It's called Mastering, Mixing, and Making Music.
Okay, I'm gonna link to that so people can join.
Oh, cool. Yeah, everybody's welcome.
So what was the name again? Mastering,
Mixing, and Making Music.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'll definitely link that. So whoever's listening, watching, check it out below. But so I wanted to ask you actually before, when you had the interview with the BBC, you got the job obviously, which was great. But did you find being a woman, because it was a while back, did you find any, was it harder being a woman to get into the industry then?
I can't say it was. I didn't ever get any sort of vibe of people that it was because I was a woman that I wasn't getting interviews or getting picked for jobs.
Right.
It was more of an age thing, I think, really.
Right.
And I think what was great about BBC was I knew that couldn't be
Yeah, exactly.
part of their process. I knew, because you can't put your data, but you're not supposed to ask people's age nowadays.
Right.
And gender is another thing. So it was, I knew that the BBC would be such that that couldn't come into their parameters for choosing somebody.
That's perfect.
So, but what was surprising to me when I did actually get into the BBC, first off, what surprised me was my first interview. I was interviewed by two women who were audio engineers in the BBC. I think the next interview I had, I think was a board of 4 people, and 2 of those were women, and I remember being really surprised. And then, of course, when I got in, it's a really good mix, a really good split of men versus women.
That's great.
And it was really nice place to work and a nice environment to be in.
Yeah, for sure.
When there's a mix like that. Mm-hmm. So
that's good. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to work for 2 great women in the industry as well. So so Manon, I don't know if I can pronounce her name correctly. She's French, so her name is Manon Grandjean. I don't know. Yeah, I might butcher that last name. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then as we spoke about before, Mandy Purnell for a few months.
Yes, I've met Mandy Parnell. I went to the AES mastering conference last year in London. I was able to meet her, and because she did a little bit of a talk, and she seems she was really quite nice to me, and
great, yeah,
really cool.
yeah,
really cool, kind of just cool,
Yeah, perfect. Because. Yeah, you worked at BBC, but then you decided to leave, right?
Yeah, I did. It was a very big decision.
Yeah.
To decide to leave.
How come you felt you wanted to leave?
Yeah, it was quite. I would say it was a very big decision, and I had to do a lot of soul searching, because on the one hand, it was such a fantastic place to work with fantastic people, amazing engineers. And on the other hand, it took me a long time to get there and back every day.
Right. Because you were still living in Basingstoke then? Or?
I was still living in Basingstoke.
Right, yeah.
So I was commuting into London every day. The hours in the job itself were quite varied. So the shifts were pretty good. They wouldn't have you doing a late shift and an early shift straight after each other.
Right.
But it could be you might be doing an OB, which is an outside broadcast, one day. So you're there from 8 in the morning till 11 at night,
right.
And then you go home. Which took me an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half. And, you get up in the morning and it's straight back on the bike, because I used to commute it on a motorbike in all weathers, which was also took its toll.
Yeah, of course.
But it was the only way I could guarantee I could get there on time.
Right.
So that it was a no-brainer. I had to do it like that.
Yeah.
And so that, coupled with the sort of stress of live broadcast, I used to get really, really nervous and stressed about doing live broadcasts. Even after the 6 or 7 years that I was there, right, I was still getting nervous. And also a lot of the work, it wasn't all glamorous sessions at Maida Vale. It was a lot of the daytime scheduling for Radio 2. So it was just turning up at Broadcasting House and doing the same shows days in, days out, which, again, I'm not complaining. It was great. And, there were fabulous guests and we had a great time. But it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I I wanted to mix music. I wanted to make records. So it wasn't kind of ticking all the boxes for me anymore.
Right.
And then the other aspect of it that I've since come to realize was that I was suffering with imposter syndrome.
Right.
I really felt as though I was going to get found out. I thought I was doing really well. I was getting great feedback. People enjoyed working with me, and you know, I knew I was doing good work there, but I just didn't feel as though I had the confidence. I couldn't see in me what they saw in me.
Right.
And I just thought, no, because I was so nervous about working live, doing live broadcasts. I just thought one day it's just going to go horribly wrong and I'm going to get found out, you know, for being a fraud. And that really was the major point that I had to, I just needed to get out, and that's what I did.
Have you since then dealt with feeling like that?
I have, and whilst it's still there, it's nowhere near as bad as it was, and it took a long time. I just thought that once I left, it would be all better, you know, I'd be fine. But what I found was when I did leave, all I did feel was a sense of regret.
Right.
And I couldn't listen to music anymore, which for someone who lived, breathed and ate music, and grew up in such a musical household and environment, it just felt wrong. So I just stuck with it. I just thought, okay, one day I'll feel fine. One day I'll feel better. One day I'll be able to think about the BBC again and think and look back with fondness rather than regret.
Yeah.
But it wasn't happening.
Right.
And in the end, I happened to be speaking to a friend about it, who also happened to be a hypnotherapist.
Okay.
And he offered to work with me to try and sort me out, fix the problem.
Right.
And I was very skeptical. But I thought, what, you know, I've got nothing to lose. I'd really love to love music again. And went, had a couple of sessions with him. Felt a bit silly, you know. But came out, it wasn't an instant thing. It wasn't a magical, like a switch that got flicked. It was kind of quite a slow progression, but what did happen quite quickly, and it came out of the blue, was just the thought in my mind that I think I was listening to some music, and I think it was I had an opinion about the kick drum or something, and thought, oh, I'd love to have a go at mixing this. And I thought, where did that come from? Because I hadn't had that sort of thought for 5 years or so.
Yeah.
You know, I'd come out of the BBC, gone into a completely different career again, and that just came out of the blue, and I thought, oh, I wonder if this is it. And then before I know it, I'd bought a suitable computer. I'd got a DAW, and I was gonna, you know, give it a go. Got some fairly decent monitors, and started to mix.
That's great.
And that was about 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
I got back on the horse, so to speak.
That's great. I mean, so, you know, if I can ask you, what were some of the questions the therapist asked you that made you, you know, deal with, for lack of a better word, I guess? Because I guess there are a lot of people, you know, feeling they are imposters these days.
Yes.
You know, maybe if you have some great tips, or, you know, what you learned through your process. Yeah.
It's more the thing with hypnotherapy is it all happens at a subconscious level.
Right.
So, you know, I was hypnotized so that he could speak directly to my subconscious. Yeah. It all sounds very woo-woo and, you know, out there, but that's what hypnotherapy is.
Right.
If you in anything, even if you want to give up smoking, even if you want to stop overeating,
Right.
and you go see a hypnotherapist, it's all about talking to your subconscious and giving it an alternative path to choose. But it's working with your subconscious. It's not him telling your subconscious how to think.
Right.
It's working with your subconscious. And it wasn't, it was just being able to revisit, go back to that time, and being given the opportunity to reframe them in a different context.
Right.
So that when you come out of hypnosis, your subconscious kind of interprets those thoughts in a different way. And it certainly worked. It worked for me because, as I say, it was probably a month or 6 weeks after the second session where I had that impulse.
Right.
It was an impulse to mix.
Right.
And the rest is history.
Because I know you did some brewery and stuff. I don't want to get stuck in that. But I know you said to me when we met the last time that Sylvia Massey had a big impact on you.
Yeah.
Good to get started again. So what was that story? How did you meet her?
Yeah, that was fantastic week. I entered a competition to win a place on one of the Mix with the Masters seminars. And Mix with the Masters is a seminar that takes place, lasts a week long at a fantastic studio in France called La Fabrique. And it's usually with some, top level recording engineer, mixing engineer, producer. I mean, the big names are the guys and women that you see hosting these seminars. And I was a member of Sound Girls, which is just for me, just an online forum where women in the audio industry could, it was an online forum. We just like any online forum, we just had a commonality being women, and we just, used to have chats. And it's quite Sound Girls is a great organisation because it offers training and internship and such like for women in the audio industry.
Right.
Most women, I found these days, tend to go into live audio work. So I still feel a little bit of a minority being a mix engineer. Whilst there are a few, certainly, there are a lot more. You tend to see women as mastering engineers and live sound engineers.
Right.
And then you've got a handful that are producers or mix engineers. So, I've forgotten the question. What was the question?
So you met Sylvia Massey.
That's right, Sylvia.
In La Fabrique, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's right. I entered the competition. Sound Girls sent out a competition to win a place on the Mix with the Masters. Right. Seminar with Sylvia Massey, and I thought, oh, that's worth an entry. I'll have a go at that. And it was actually you had to pay for your entry because they're obviously raising funds to help other women do these internships and what have you. And so I bought an entry. I think it was like $10. Wow. And didn't really think much more of it.
Was it just like, did you have to do application or just basically to pick a name?
It was just like a raffle ticket, You just entered, paid $10 and just wait. And I'd more or less forgotten about it when the email dropped in my inbox to say that I'd won one of the runner-up prizes.
Nice.
Which was a discount. Right. So I think I got something like 30% off or something.
Right.
And it's with it being a week long in France, all board is included, bed and breakfast, lunch and evening meal. It's all included. So can be it is quite an expensive thing to do. So I looked at it and thought, shall I do it? Shan't I? And I just thought it's an opportunity I'm never going to get again, to work with Sylvia Massey, to work in a fabulous studio like La Fabrique, and to get 30% discount. Being from Yorkshire, any sort of discount means a great thing. It means a great deal to me.
Oh, is that a Yorkshire thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I didn't know.
Yes. We like a saving. We like a bargain.
Because my girlfriend is from there, actually, but I didn't know that about her. I'm going to ask her later.
You should, yes.
Yeah.
Ask her. Yeah. There
Cool.
are lots of jokes about Yorkshiremen and the money. So.
Okay, yeah.
So I decided to go. I went, and I'm really glad I did, because it was one of the best weeks of my life. I had a fantastic time. It turned out as well to be evenly split. Usually these Mix with the Masters seminars are mostly guys,
Right.
with maybe one or two women, if any at all. And the one I went on, probably because it was Sylvia, was really evenly split. And
good.
so I was there as well as the winner, the competition winner, and then the other runner-up.
Right, cool.
And I met some fabulous people there. Everybody on that seminar, the participants, were just fantastic, beautiful human beings. I had the best time that week.
Right.
And so it changed. It was life-changing from that perspective. To meet such fabulous people and still be in touch with a lot of them.
Right.
Meet up with occasionally if we get the chance, because everybody's spread about. We came from all over the world.
Yeah.
But the main takeaway for me from that seminar was that, having had that break from mixing and working with music after leaving the BBC, to then return some years later, working with digital equipment rather than the analog equipment I was used to and the workflow that I was used to. I'd obviously taken some mixers to the seminar and sat down with Sylvia and the group, and we listened to the mixers, and I was blown away by the response of the people there. It just validated to me that I could still do it, and that was massive. That was huge.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, that's when I really started to put all my effort into starting and pushing my own business, my own online mixing and mastering business.
Yeah, because I'd love to talk to you about that too. But yeah, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, it was just the validation. It was just knowing that I could still do it, because Sylvia and these 15 other people confirmed that. Nice. So it was just so good to know. And yeah, so I had this vigor to go out and want to do it all the more, and work with bands that, are unsigned, and just wanted some help. Perhaps they were recording the songs themselves at home and just couldn't quite get them mixed right. It wasn't quite sounding quite right. Then I wanted to work with people like that to help them get a professional sounding mix, so that they could release music they could be proud of. And I really wanted to help that, DIY musician, self-producing musician, whatever you want to call it.
But that's everyone today, essentially,
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe in the past it was more maybe a few of them, but every musician I know, they all do it, record them themselves at home, basically.
Yeah, the landscape has changed dramatically from 10 years ago, and it's fabulous. It's great. It's just, I desperately want everybody to be heard, and there's just so many now, as you say, doing it and trying to get the music's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's or on Amazon. It's everywhere. And I just want them to be heard and
Yeah,
appreciated.
exactly.
And it's hard for them to try and stand out these days.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It
that's where I
is.
hope I can help in giving a mix that's worthy to be listened to, worthy of listening.
That's
Uh,
great. But
yeah.
so when you decided to, okay, I'm gonna set up my own home studio, what was the process for you to, get clients? Like, because you had your break, so you essentially had to start over from zero. So how did you
Yeah.
find clients? What was your process of doing all
Yeah.
that?
It was quite sort of hit and miss at the start because I was starting, as you say, from nothing, from zero clients, not a huge portfolio of work. Although, what I did have was good, but what I did have wasn't from paying clients.
Right,
It was from multi tracks that I'd got from the internet.
right,
So there were, I basically had to go out and try and find clients to work with. And
Did you do it online, or was it going
I,
seeing shows, or what was the?
yeah, I took the decision to try and do as much as I could online, partly because there's not a huge music scene in Basingstoke.
Sure.
There are bands, there are some great local bands, but there's not that many venues. So it was pretty. I mean, it's a little bit of a cop out. I could have just got on the train and gone to London,
Right.
but I think I had that in my back pocket as a fallback position, really,
Yeah.
if I needed to. Unfortunately, I haven't needed to do that. I just took the stance of getting my website up and optimizing that so that it gets in front of as many people as possible.
Can you tell
So,
us more about that? So, what does it mean to optimize your website?
yeah, I
Yeah.
I basically took some time to think about what my clients or prospective clients would want. What were they looking for? What would they be searching for? So I took the time to learn about SEO, which is search engine optimization, and I instigated as much as I could from what I'd learned into my website,
Okay.
so that when people searched for my services like mine, I would feature as high up in the search engine rankings as I could possibly get myself, my website. And that seems to have stood me in good stead.
Right.
So
So
that's
was the
working pretty
SEO
well.
around mixing, or what was the terms you
Yeah,
searched for, if you want to share it?
it was around mixing and mastering, and
Right.
what I did some what's called keyword research,
Right.
and you basically dig and try and find out what it is that your ideal clients or potential clients are searching for in Google. And once you find those phrases out and you can see how many times those searches have been entered into Google
Right.
per month,
Yeah.
then you can see, oh, well, if I can get that search term into my website, onto my web pages, into my URLs, into my page titles,
Yeah.
and into my page descriptions, then Google's going to like that, and that Google are going to offer my page as an option.
Right. Right.
So that's what I really concentrated on. I concentrated on that probably more so. This time last year, actually, was when I really put the effort into it. When I first started, when I got my first website up and running at the back end of 2016, I did it on the Wix platform, and it was fine. It was quick, easy, but no matter what I did with search engine optimization, I just wasn't kind of featuring very highly, sort of,
Right.
page 5 or page 6 and beyond,
Yeah.
and nobody goes beyond
No.
page 2 really these days.
Yeah.
So I thought that I decided, or I'd done some sort of research about Wix and felt as though perhaps Wix wasn't that great when it came to SEO.
Right.
So I'd made the decision to switch to WordPress,
Right.
which is a bit more technically challenging. But I went out and I learned how to build a WordPress website.
Okay.
And that's what I put into place at the beginning of this year. I actually went live with it, I think, in January this year.
Right.
And within days of switching, my website impressions, just quadrupled.
Oh, yeah?
It was, yeah, and it was a really, really great thing to switch for me. I know Wix works for a heck of a lot of people, but I don't know, it just wasn't working for me and with my content at that time. It just wasn't happening. So,
So did you use any software to do the SEO? That was a website you went to. How did you do that?
I had got an SEO plugin on the website,
Right.
but it was more me concentrating on the keyword side of things and getting keywords into my website copy in such a way that it wasn't spammy, and just using the metadata
Right.
for the pages and the headlines, the headings of the pages, and the URLs to get those keywords in, and that's what's done it, along with content. So that being regular blog posts, regular changing content. So Google can see that your site is new, it's fresh, it's always updating, it's got relevant information, relevant content to what your people are looking for. And so that was the switch sort of halfway through the year, was then to knuckle down and get some blog posts written.
To do weekly content, or is that your commitment?
That's my commitment. It's been quite difficult, especially in the busy periods when you've got lots of client work coming in, and that's how it is in this business. You all comes in fits and starts, and you're inundated 1 month, and you've got you don't know how you're going to cope, and then 2 months later, when it's all died down, it's all gone really quiet. And
exactly.
So it's balancing that out and not spending too wildly in the good months, so that you've got enough to cover you in the lean months. And whilst it's all heading in the right direction, I'm not quite there yet, not quite comfortable yet, which I expect to, in the next couple of years to be in that position.
Yeah.
But I was a new business. I was a new business.
Exactly.
So it's just going perfectly. It's going perfectly to plan. Given that I'm a new business, I'm not worried.
It takes time and determination. Not many people speak about that, unfortunately. But because it sounds like, oh, you can do this and this, and it's going to happen like that. But usually, it's something you have to implement over time. Like yourself.
Yeah.
And then the results will come.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the key to it is just doing it regularly, showing up regularly, little and often, sort of thing. And I've tried to find different ways to do that, and one method is batching content, where you just sit down. When you do, you can see that the upcoming week is kind of quiet. You think, right, well, I'm going to sit down and write 5 blog posts.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to sit down and make 4 videos, which is something I'm looking to do. I'm hoping to start a YouTube channel up in early next year. Well, as soon as possible, actually. So my content will switch from being written blog content to a video.
Okay, cool.
So I hope that works better for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really really great. Building up an audience and learning my audience and meeting my audience.
Yeah.
It's not massive by any stretch of the imagination, but the people that I do contact on a weekly basis are great. They just, they email me in response to my blog posts and ask me questions and thank me for the information. It's amazing.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it's lovely. It really is. And, I'm more than happy to help. It's what I really enjoy doing. And at the end of the day, we just want great sounding music. So if I can help, then I'll do the best I can.
Yeah. But something I saw on your website, because obviously you're building an email list and stuff as a studio owner, and you have a free guide. So
yeah,
is that something you recommend studio owners should do these days to build a client base?
Yeah, definitely. You need a guide that you have looked at the search terms again.
Right.
You've gone to Google. All you do is you can just type in this into the field there what you're searching for, and Google will give you some suggestions, and those suggestions are what real people have actually typed in and looked for, so you can get some idea on what it is people are searching for. And there are other tools and things out there that some cost money, some don't, but once you can get into the habit of finding out what people are actually searching for and what they actually want, and then you can write a guide about it, then they will find that guide through their searches, and they'll download it and give you their email address and sign up to your regular content, which is what happened with my guide. And I've, it's just doing the work, doing the research, doing the work, writing the guide, making it look reasonable, and offering it out to the world. And one day someone will pick it up, and it will end up. It could be an influencer in the same niche as you, and they think what you've done is great, and they feature it on their blog, therefore putting it in front of their audience, and then you just get this whole kind of momentum build up. It's pretty fantastic when that happens, and that's it. Then the ball started to roll, and you can run with it, and it's quite addictive as well when you start seeing the numbers climb, and you actually know then that you do have an audience, that people are listening to you and want to hear what you've got to say. Because that's the driver then. That's what makes you want to write or record a video, so that you can help even more people.
Yeah, exactly. But something I'm interested in learning from you, when you contact people online, like cold leads, for example, how do you get a conversation going? Do you have a process to that?
Yeah, it's what I tend to do is, in my sort of travels around the internet and around this business and through other people's email newsletters, I'll pick up on a song I like, or usually through Facebook, where things get thrown up in front of you, don't they, on your feed? And I'll look at a band will pop up. Oh, you may like this. Because you like this band, you might like that band. So then I'll go and have a look at that band. And if they've got music or a link to music somewhere, I'll take a listen. And if I like what they're doing, then it's just basically reaching out with a message and saying how much you like the music. It would be really great to work with them if the opportunity is out there. You know, if they need a mix engineer or a mastering engineer, then I'd like the opportunity to work with you. You can hear my work here, you know, providing some links to your portfolio.
Yeah.
And, you know, just following up then, once you've sent that initial message, you might get a thanks, but no thanks. We've already got an engineer that we're really happy with, which is awesome. That's fine. But if you don't get any response, then just follow up and keep following up until you do get a response. And that sounds a bit kind of stalkerish, but it's not if you do it, you know, in a non-naggy way. So it's just every week or so. Then leave it a couple of weeks, then leave it another couple of weeks, and just sort of say, oh, you know, hi, just wondered if you saw my message. I'd still really love to work with you if we can at some point in the future. And usually you get some sort of response. I've never had any bad responses. I've never had anything nasty or stop messaging me.
Yeah.
You know, I've never had anything like that. It's just usually, thanks, yeah, we really like what you do, or we'll bear you in mind for the future, or, you know, something along those lines.
Right.
But yeah, there are whole things you can do. You can, you know, just take a day to sit down and go through Bandcamp and listen to the sorts of music that you work in. You know, that like I work in rock and indie, so I would sit and listen to rock and indie tracks, have a look at what they're doing, when their last release was, and then just send them a message. But fortunately, these days I don't seem to have to do that as often.
Okay.
Because I put the work in on the SEO and the website and the Google rankings, I'm getting inquiries coming in a regularly enough way, so that I can get work.
Yeah.
The other site that's working for me on that front is Soundbetter.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually. You know, because I saw you on there.
Yeah, I've had a reasonable amount of response on there. Some people do amazingly well. Again, I'm not on the paid plan. I was for a time. And the paid plan, you've got to have some commercial credits. You know, so I was looking, because of the BBC work, I have commercial credits, so I was able to get on their paid plan. But I felt as though I wasn't, with the sort of work that comes up on Soundbetter, it didn't really fall into my genre, into my niche. There's an awful lot of hip hop, rap, pop on there, and that's not what I work in. So I just didn't feel as though it was worth the outlay for me at that point, and so I just have the free profile. It doesn't, because it's free, it doesn't get bumped up there. Search.
But that's the thing with those services, because I don't think I tried Soundbetter. I think I tried like Fiverr or something. I'm not sure, but because you're obviously part of. Someone else is deciding how well you're doing, essentially. Yeah. So that's why I stay away from those platforms. I like to be in control of my own shit. Yeah. You know, and maybe you feel the same.
Yeah, I certainly haven't pushed going through Soundbetter, partly because of the way that they pay out. For me, as a UK citizen, and probably anybody else who's not American, to be honest, they pay in dollars. They pay you out in dollars, and they pay you into PayPal only.
Right.
So when that happens, you have to take a hit, and you take a hit from PayPal for you basically have to pay their fees for their conversion rates.
Yeah.
Which are not optimal. They're pretty steep.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, so that's basically what that meant initially was I've just had to bump up the prices on Soundbetter
Yeah, of course.
to cover the fees. Because not only is it the PayPal fees, it's then your own personal bank account, which might sting you for doing the conversion, doing
Yeah, exactly.
workout. It just gets there were just quite too much in the way of fees that were. Yeah, I mean, it would even have been great if I thought I'd cracked it
Okay.
by using TransferWise,
Right.
which is a great website for getting paid in international money
Okay. Okay.
without too many fees. It's really the cheapest way you can receive international funds.
Okay.
But PayPal won't accept a TransferWise account
Ah, I see.
as a bank account, so you
Right.
can't transfer to TransferWise.
Right.
And I just felt as though that was a bit underhand.
Yeah.
So, whilst that's not Soundbetter's fault, obviously, I have written to Soundbetter and asked that they consider other payment options, like Stripe or
Yeah.
TransferWise or bank transfer, just another way than PayPal. When they do that, if they do that, then I will consider signing up for the
But how much is
pay.
the pro or the premium membership?
It was, I can't remember. It could have been something like $50,
A month?
$49 or something.
Right.
And whilst, yes, if you get just one project, then you've got your money back,
Sure.
plus and some, obviously. I It just didn't seem to work. It didn't really seem to work for me.
No.
Again, because of the genre thing, because it was just, there's quite a number of people just testing the waters that are on
Sure.
there.
Yeah.
They're not quite they're not really ready to mix or master. They got something, and there's just quite a lot of tire kickers is what I call
Right.
them. Being
Yeah.
from the motor trade,
Yeah. Yeah.
they just not that serious at this point, and it was
Right.
got quite kind of time consuming. So
Right.
yeah, I just put all my efforts into the website and into SEO.
Cool. Yeah.
Um, and
That's a great idea actually.
yeah,
Yeah. People listening, try that out,
yeah,
and yeah, that should be good.
yeah,
But something, I mean, just going back a bit, but having you left BBC, you felt a bit like an imposter. But looking at your career, as a, from another perspective, from my perspective, you seem quite fearless. And it's really cool to see that, you're a bit older when you started studying audio than most of us. But you made it anyway to BBC, you took a break, you came back, and doing your home studio. So it's cool.
yeah. When you
I
put it
admire
like
it.
that,
Yeah.
yeah,
You don't strike me as you have an imposter syndrome because you are fearless in a lot of ways.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice of you to say that. Actually, I hadn't really kind of thought of that. So
Because many people wouldn't do a career change like that and then take a break and then come back. It's cool.
yeah, yeah. I guess I mean I've done that's two kind of career changes I've done,
Yeah.
really, because the motor trade into audio, and then
The brewery
from
thing.
audio into brewing,
Yeah.
and then from brewing back to audio.
Yeah. But also the cool thing, being a home studio owner these days is, you said you had a backup plan going to London to see shows, but these days the whole world is your,
Yeah,
oyster, whatever you want to call it, because
yeah,
you can contact bands like you are doing. It's cool.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. That's right. That I really felt as though that was the case. I thought, well, if I can't make it by utilizing the internet, then something's not quite right. But then again, I do appreciate the angle where, and I do think it's right, where it is about personality. It is when you're working with artists and bands and on something as such importance as their music, which is something they've poured their heart and soul into. I totally get that they're going to want to meet the person that's going to be mixing their music.
Sure.
Some bands are going to want to sit down and do with attended sessions and sit and work with a producer or an engineer directly, and I totally get that. But there's enough out there for everybody, I think.
Yeah.
And
But do you try to have a Skype call with the clients you have?
I would happily do that. It's not something that I do with every project as a matter of course.
Sure.
But if they want to, if that's what they want to do, then I'm more than happy to do that. But the people I've worked with have been quite happy with our email correspondence.
Yeah.
Because it's so convenient, isn't it? And so quick. It's also quite dangerous because of perceptions and being misunderstood. So I think it's quite important to be clear and concise with any emails that you send out. It also can be quite frustrating when you get to like the revision part of the process.
I saw you had a great article on what's it called, Production Expert, about I think it was a recent article, right, from November maybe. Yeah, there were some great tips in there how to sort the language out and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So how do you do that in your emails?
It's basically you have to guide them, tell them what they need to do, rather than assuming that they know. So it's just writing emails that you are very descriptive, and you would I explain to them the best way to listen, what to listen on,
right,
and I also offer a guide or a glossary, audio glossary.
Oh, like an attachment in the email?
Yeah, it's what it is just a list of common words that we as audio engineers use in everyday speak. But we can quite easily forget that musicians might not necessarily know those, or they come up with their own flowery terms, which I think I wrote one in the article where I had a recent client asking me to make. It was for a master. I was mastering an EP, I think, and they wanted me to make the songs sound a little more glamorous, and I was kind of struggling with that a little bit. I interpreted it as being as perhaps having a bit more top end or air or sparkle or something. But I actually felt that the masters already had that.
Right.
So I think it's just going back and asking them to clarify what they mean. And this is what I mean by frustrating. You do have to go back and forth sometimes to really understand what it is.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's the point where, a Skype call would perhaps work. The added complication with that particular client was that English wasn't their first language.
I see. Yeah.
So I could tell from the email that I wasn't really going to gain much by going on a Skype call.
Right.
But how I was able to come around it was by asking for a reference. Can you give me a commercial reference that you feel is more glamorous, or so I can try and
match. Yeah.
Get an idea of what it is that you actually want in this round of revisions, and it went well. It was great.
Perfect.
Ended happily.
Yeah.
They're happy. I'm happy.
Nice. Yeah, that's what we want. Happy clients.
Yeah.
But awesome, Sarah. I mean, before we wrap up here, where can people find more info about you, your website? Yeah, we talked about your Facebook group, obviously, but the other stuff.
Yeah. Well, I've got my mixing and mastering website, which is musicmixpro.co.uk.
There's a link to that too.
Yeah. Hello. And then I'm also currently in the process of putting together some audio courses, to help people who are just starting out with mixing, or perhaps might be more on the intermediate side of things. As I said earlier, I really enjoy helping people and getting that feedback from people, when that aha moment, you know, when it's like, oh yeah, I get it now. Oh, I can hear it. I can hear that. You know, so I love that. So I'm currently working on putting together some content, and some video courses will pop up next year.
Cool.
And that will be simplymixing.com.
Okay.
And so, you know, I'm there on both platforms, both websites, to chat and talk about mixing.
Awesome.
And then the Facebook group, which is really great. I'm really pleased with that.
Cool. Yeah, everything is going to be linked in the description, so people can check it out.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome, Sarah. Well, yeah, thank you for coming on. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you for asking. It was lovely to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you. And as I said in the episode, all the links to the good stuff she mentioned is in the description below, as well as a free guide, 3 tested ways to increase your client base. And also, please leave a comment what you think about the interview, who you would like to see next, if there's any topic you'd like to see me cover when it comes to your home studio and how you can grow your home studio. Leave a comment, send an email, and I see you guys next week.